Rosary Minor or Rosarius Minor. A most useful treatise concerning chemistry, and most full of knowledge of metallic matters, entitled Rosarius Minor. Of an uncertain author indeed, but one not unskilled in these matters. Preface. A riddle about the art of alchemy and the author's method of proceeding. 1. The author of the book, which is called Rosarius, says, I descended into my garden to behold the beds of various plants springing up, and among the other flowers of my rosary, I found a snowy or white rose, and also one adorned with blood or redness. I chose the most beautiful, and observed that there were few and rare, for the pomegranates had not blossomed. And I said with an audible voice, Return, return, O gardener, return and bring increase. Multiply my rosary throughout the entire garden, or build and plant it anew, so that the garden may be adorned with white and red roses shining brilliantly. With the superfluous removed and rejected, apply careful attention to what is useful and necessary. Then the gardener separated the rose plants and replanted them, and increased them by doubling, tripling, quadrupling, and thus multiplying in turn, until they reached full whiteness, and then perfect redness. But all this was done through the increase of the plants, which pleased me. However, he hinted that this was still not enough. Yet whatever was perceptible regarding this he fully demonstrated to me. And in due time he planted both white and red roses in his soil, and left them to grow in his land, I say, his own land, from which they had sprung. And in the following year, a plant came forth, which annually produced 1,000 roses. And behold, my garden is now filled with rose beds, yielding roses sufficiently for me and for all who enter each year. Therefore, I give praises to God, and grateful thanks to the gardener. And in this book, better than the others, which is not without reason entitled Rosarius, I will write perfectly all things which I have seen and truly tested, for those who understand, are wise, and skilled in the art, so that whoever enters this rosary through the gates, with the gardener's help, will not only have a share of the roses, but will also see the crafts of all who work in the white or red rosary. And consequently, he will acquire discernment in understanding the intention of all writings, wherever the work may seem obscure or clear. For in this lies the truth both utterly naked and also clothed. Naked to those who are knowledgeable and discerning in the nearer natures of minerals. Clothed, however, to fools, who seek in the more distant, indeed, impossible, natures of vegetables and animals, relying only on the texts of masters who, out of envy, obscure the art for those who labor at it. For I write to you the perfect truth, and sure, true, and complete operations, without any deviation. Admonition: 2 kinds of deceivers to beware of, and that the art consists in fixed mercury. 2. But truly, truly, many pseudophilosophers will come after me, who will deceive practitioners. Of these I find only 2 general types, who obscure this knowledge. The first is the ignorant and sophistic. The second is the knowledgeable but envious philosopher. The first writes deceitful books, bearing witness to his own deceits and sophistry, and places upon their titles the names of good philosophers, so that they may appear to have good art and perfect elixir. And so that he may be more believed by men, he carries powders of stones, white or red, and treats gold and silver, but those who follow him fail in their operations when they test his writings. The second is wholly envious, and writes books on things far removed from the truth, to lead men away from the true path as much as he can. He tries to prove his claims with mere arguments, which seem to fools to be most certain. He places the art in herbs, and fruits of plants, and in many foreign and remote vegetables. Or, so that he may seem to leave us the true art, he speaks more philosophically, grounding himself in the 4 elements, which are the materials of the philosophers, and draws these from many things, from vegetables, animals, and many others, namely from the egg, from hair, from blood, from dung, from urine, from seed, from toads, and from many other things, as their writings show and declare. Or he substitutes one thing for another, either in likeness or plainly, and places the entire art either in the aforementioned principles or in remote mineral intermediates, such as ink, borax salt, alum, marcasite, magnesia, tusha, and many other minerals. And although these may help sometimes to hasten or to purify, or to increase color, nevertheless they are envious who put them forward as the complete philosophical matter. And thus they either expose the art, or else cover it up, and deceive the unwise, so that they may despise the art, or, although they receive the true matter and mineral nature, yet through their various fictitious and impossible or unsuitable operations, they prevent the fool from reaching completion. And oh, you novices who purchase the art of alchemy wholly as above, do you believe that you should expect good and true transmutation from that which is quickly destroyed by the fire's combustion and reduced to ashes? Is it not said that sulfur and orpiment burn quickly and are quickly consumed by fire? But azoth always remains longer unburned. What is perfect in metals is fixed mercury, as said above. Concerning the same, that fixed mercury brings perfection. Division of operations and of the booklet into 2 parts. 3. Now I have openly proved, according to straight truth, that the defect in metals is the defect of mercury, fixed and pure, and whatever is chosen in this art to perfect it is the cause thereof. Therefore, in it is the perfection, and not in any other. Know this, do not forget it, wherever you find it, hold it as the greater stone, for no other thing exists like it, nor can do what it does. If it is corrupt, it corrects, if fixed, it fixes, if liquid, it dissolves, if thick, it coagulates, if tinged, it tinges. It surpasses all bodies in purity. And he who could endure the fire's pain, would make from it, with its congealed sulfur, the most excellent elixir. It is taken both living and dead, but the pure is always to be chosen, which is living. Many operations are done from it, which are divided into 2. The first is done with assistance. The second from itself alone, but nature proceeds with its sulfur. In 2 chapters one will complete these 2 operations perfectly. And I will write whatever I have tested, done, or seen. From the sayings of the philosophers I hold nothing at present, except that they affirm my statements, which I will speak with truth. And I have become free from envy, let him understand who wishes to understand my words. Chapter 1. The promise and division of the things to be said concerning the operations of alchemy. 1. In the first chapter one will speak of all operations which proceed from the matter with divine aid, etc. No sophist shall enter this book, I will always set forth a regimen leading to perfection. There are indeed many aids. I say briefly that the aid of calcination is this. And first I will speak of the bodies, the imperfect ones. On the calcination of Saturn and Jupiter. 2. Saturn and Jupiter are calcined with the help of fire first, and with the diligence of the artisan, and this fire must not exceed their fixation, in an earthen vessel, strong, stirred with an iron rod, until they are reduced to ashes. The ashes are to be moistened with sharp cleansing waters. For red, purified human urine is useful, blood water, or red vinegar. For white vinegar is useful, water of common salt and alum, and many other sharp substances. After the moistening, dry them over fire or in the sun, until they become white or red lime. They are also calcined with the help of salts, and this calcination is good, and with the aid of vitriol and other sharp things. They are also calcined with the help of sulfur or orpiment, and this is better. But best of all, they are calcined with mercury thus: first they are amalgamated, then ground, and washed with sharp things until perfectly purified, then they are mixed with sharp salts by grinding, and with alums and other acidic substances, and dried and corroded. Afterward the saltness is removed by washing. However, the mercury, before it is dried, should be extracted by sublimation with salt, and thus remains a white lime, than which nothing better can be. And I give you this general rule: however Jupiter is calcined with fire, it produces white lime, Saturn always red, unless whitened with sharp things. On the calcination of Venus and Mars. 3. Venus and Mars are calcined with the help of fire, first in the reverberatory furnace. If their filings are placed inside, through the reverberation of the flame, they are calcined, and the result for Mars is crocus of iron, which is called iron cement. For Venus, it is simple burnt copper, or chi alpha lambda kappa kappa epsilon kappa alpha upsilon mu omicron. They are also calcined by ignition and extinction in sharp things, until they are totally converted into scales, just as Jupiter and Saturn are calcined by removing their scoria. Then the lime is moistened with sharp and salty substances until it becomes red and clean. The lime of Venus and Mars can also be whitened. They are also calcined with sulfur and orpiment, mixed with metal plates or their filings, and even with salts, alums, and other corrosives. The lime is then prepared with washing and drying until it reaches the desired condition. They are also very well calcined by ignition and extinction in mercury, and whatever can be scraped off during each extinction should be scraped off with a knife, and the process repeated until it is as desired. And it is prepared with washing and drying with salts, and by removing the mercury, and it will become excellent lime. And know that the lime of a body is not fixed unless it is calcined with fire. And I say this, that all bodies can be calcined over sharp vapors, or with sharp substances. But the best calcination of bodies is with mercury. On the calcination of the sun and moon. 4. The sun and moon are calcined in the manner of Venus and Mars, but what is better and best is by amalgamation with mercury, and washing and drying, or by extracting the mercury through sublimation, as has been said. Spirits, however, cannot be calcined unless they are first fixed. On the calcination of other things and mixtures. 5. Many other things are also calcined to extract their tincture, and to make their parts more subtle and purified. And know that each body is calcined by itself, and if some things are combined and calcined together, a lime is produced which is marvelous in effect. Do not forget this, test it, and retain what is best. Let this suffice for now on these matters. On the sublimation of spirits. 6. Spirits and intermediate minerals are sublimed with assistance. Spirits are sublimed either from salts, or from vitriols, or from alums, or from bodies, or from mixtures of these, including quicksilver. And note that sublimation is done for the purpose of purifying the tincture. If spirits are sublimed with impurities, they become impure. If with adherent substances, they remain more fixed with the tincture below, which is what we seek. Therefore, it is necessary that they first be purified through sharp substances and through washing, or by a singular separation of the impure from the pure. Consider this carefully, for this method is a secret. Sublime the purified spirits with the pure limes of bodies until they are fixed, and you will see that I have spoken the truth. On the sublimation of imperfect bodies. 7. Bodies are sublimed with the aid of fire, and this by the action of fire. This is done to obtain a clean, tempered matter. For that which is too volatile and earthy impurity are separated by sublimation, and the tempered substance remains, as I have said, which we seek. They are also sublimed with substances that elevate, with sulfur, orpiment, mercury, and other spirits. And I say this concerning unfixed bodies, such as Jupiter and Saturn, which can be sublimed without residue or anything else, and with any of the aforementioned. Venus and Mars can also be sublimed with those aforementioned. On the sublimation of perfect bodies. 8. But it must be especially noted that fixed bodies can also be sublimed, namely the sun and moon. But the reason for their elevation is that they may be purified with sulfur, orpiment, or quicksilver, which makes them ascend more quickly by rarefaction and fixes them more swiftly. And this is an innermost secret, which I tell you as certain, and which almost all conceal. Nevertheless, I say, bodies must be made incorporeal in ascending, and incorporeal bodies corporeal in descending. The greatest skill is to make a body into spirit, and vice versa. But it is true that if extreme volatility surpasses the extreme of fixity, in the end it will return to a spiritual body, either white or red. Truly, I am not envious, for I have laid it bare completely. On fixation. 9. Everything volatile is fixed when purified with the aid of fire, namely through daily decoction, and this is my secret, or by the aid of some fixed thing, that is through imbibition and repetition of the things mentioned before, as I have clearly described in sublimation. And this is one of my great secrets. Bodies are also fixed, as I foreshadowed, by calcining or cooking with fire alone. On distillation. 10. Many things are distilled to aid this work. Water is distilled from green or Roman vitriol, from saltpeter, and from feathered alum. These are of great help to this work, for with them all crude and calcined bodies are marvelously dissolved, and calcined or fixed spirits too, by a marvelous and beautiful solution. Many other waters and oils are distilled as well, from salts, vitriols, alums, and many other things, both mineral, vegetable, and animal, as is found in the books of philosophers who have dealt with this art. On solution. 11. All bodies and spirits are dissolved with the aid of the aforementioned corrosive water, or with other corrosive waters, which are made in many ways. And because such things are found quite truly and openly in many books of the philosophers, we are excused from treating them in this rosary. But hold this, my friend, the better solution is made in fire at gentle heat, and with living mercury and the water of life, when it is purified. But at first, it is called poison or a deadly thing. On ceration. 12. Calcined bodies are cerate with dissolved bodies, by imbibing and cerating. And though there are many imbibitions of bodies, the best is with mercury, that is, when it is purified living water. The best ceration is done with living azoth and a drop of soap. For the water of the body, when the body is reduced into mercury, is called blood. And in whatever way something is cerate with oils, it is worthless unless the oil has first been made fixed and incombustible. And this oil is obtained only from fixed metals. Know this most excellent secret, and that it is most highly prized among the philosophers. On coagulation. 13. All things that have been dissolved are coagulated with the help of fire, and this in vessels firmly sealed. But hold this as my secret, that a thing is perfectly coagulated when it flows with appropriate ignition and withstands the test of fire. Otherwise, repeat the work, and through repetition you will arrive at the goal, with God's favor. On particulars toward white in general. 14. Behold, I have told you all the true and necessary operations in the work of this art, to shorten the labor and to assist nature in general. Now, to be complete, I will unfold better special and particular instructions in this chapter. First, therefore, how bodies are multiplied, and afterward about abbreviating time and labor, and the elixir. And since the red can in no way be made unless the white first precedes, I now give you such instructions for multiplying white roses so that perfect Luna may be produced. First, the body of Luna must be dried, and this through the calcination I have described. And the purpose of this is that the moisture of that which we propose to augment it with may adhere more deeply and firmly to it without separation. Then another non-fixed body, with which you intend to work, must be calcined, this so that it may be fixed by it. For the volatile part in them flies off through the calcination by fire, and what remains is an unleavened and pure earth. By this same calcination, the sticky greasiness and impurity of the body is removed, and it is brought back to its pristine state, and what remains is a clean earth that does not burn or blacken bodies. Then dissolve the lime of Luna in pure and clear water, as I showed you in the chapter on dissolution. Second, likewise dissolve the unleavened lime of any other body, combine the waters, and mix them well, then congeal them into a white mass, and at the end of the congelation let it descend through the bottom. This is the best method I have ever tried. I took 1 part of the fixed body and 3 parts of the non-fixed. I again combined the dissolved lime of Luna and the water of the non-fixed body, and I again combined this water with the first mentioned mass, again calcined and dissolved, and thus the first part was augmented by 3 parts of its kind. I made that whole coagulate and descend a second time. I repeated this work 15 times, and never did God create a better Luna. I held it dearer than gold. I also found another much easier method, namely, by imbibing the lime of the non-fixed body with the water of the lime of Luna, grinding or cerating it upon marble, drying it well, and letting it descend. Then, on the second time, taking new lime of the non-fixed body, imbibing it with the dissolved lime of new Luna, and adding the lime of the first mass, namely, 1 part of this with 3 parts of the other, then drying and descending, and repeating the process 15 times. Thus I came to a Luna much better than natural. Therefore, I tried another way, still easier, namely, dissolving calcined Luna in water, and with that water imbibing the lime of the non-fixed body, grinding and drying and descending. Again I repeated the work with new material, and when it was dried, I added 3 parts of the newly dried material to 1 part of the previously generated mass. I omitted nothing from the repetitions, and I found by the 15th time a good Luna, equal in quality to natural Luna. One can also proceed well, if one prefers, with about 10 repetitions. However, the more the metallic work is repeated, the better. And know that the previously mentioned dissolutions can be done excellently with corrosive waters, but the better dissolution is always with mercury. Know this, oh, how many good things come from bodies amalgamated with mercury. These I have now said in general, now I will treat each body individually. On particulars toward white in specific. 15. Take 1 part of Luna and 5 or 6 parts of Mars, and let them descend together through the bottom, as was said above, and you will have good Luna. Take 1 part of Luna and 2 or an equal part of Venus, and let them descend together through the bottom, as stated above, and you will have good Luna. Take 1 part of Luna and 3 parts of Saturn, and let them descend together through the bottom in the way described, and you will have better Luna. Take 1 part of Luna and 3 parts of Jupiter, and make them descend together through the bottom as explained before, and it will be excellent Luna, equivalent to natural in every test without fail. If my word is faithful, remember my soul for the things I have said. Also, the best operation can be done in another way, by amalgamation with mercury. Amalgamate dried Luna with mercury in equal parts. But let there be double the amount of mercury or of the amalgamated Mars. Then place 6 parts of this with 1 part of the first. Boil the whole amalgam together until the mercury is separated, and let it descend, and repeat this work 15 times, and the Luna will be good. Luna is also amalgamated with mercury as I said, and Venus also should be amalgamated in the manner of Mars, 2 parts of it, and 1 part of the amalgam should be sublimed and descended by the same method, and when the work has been repeated 15 times, the Luna will be good. Luna is especially amalgamated with mercury, and Saturn likewise in equal parts, and 3 parts of it are placed with Luna, subliming and descending, and repeating in the prescribed manner, and you will arrive at better Luna. Luna is especially amalgamated with mercury, and Jupiter likewise in equal parts, and let 3 parts of it be with 1 part of Luna, and through repeated sublimation, for the separation of mercury, and by repeating the descent of the work, you will arrive at the best Luna in the world. The foregoing should suffice for the multiplication of white roses. On particulars toward the red in general. 16. Let us now proceed to the multiplication of red roses. The first general rule is, in every red work, place the sun, just as Luna is placed in the unleavened matter. But note, the calxes of some bodies are reddened by the help of fire alone, and some are not. Those whose calxes are reddened are Mars, Venus, and Saturn. But the calx of Luna, Jupiter, and fixed Mercury is not reddened by the help of fire alone, in this first chapter. However, in our second and last chapter, namely, in the Great Magistery, the calx of these is reddened at will, and they tinct without measure. Behold the treasure of the philosophers. They are, nevertheless, reddened in this first chapter with tincting things such as sulfur, atrament, iron water, and the red oil of the philosophers, extracted from minerals, vegetables, or even animals. And the manner of operating is the same as in the white work of Luna, but in this work the sun must be calcined and dissolved. Let also all non-fixed bodies be calcined. And through that same calcination, reddened in corrosive or dissolving waters, I mean those more red, join the waters, congeal, and descend into a red mass as you did for the white, and repeat this work as you did with the unleavened matter, 15 times, and you will have a perfect operation. Indeed, in this work you may preserve every method I told you in the white. This is true for those calxes that can be reddened with the help of fire. And that all calxes of bodies can be reddened with the aid of many tincting things remains here for us to declare. But since much good and true information about these is found in the books of the philosophers of this art, waters tinged with redness, powders, and oils, with which the calxes are often imbibed, dried, dissolved, congealed, and descended until redness is achieved. Therefore it seems superfluous to treat of them here. Yet take from me, to satisfy you, a special tincture of the sun. A particular recipe for the red. 17. Wash the filings of Mars in warm salty water, then in warm fresh water, and finally in vinegar many times, say, 20, until they are clear and well purified. Place them in a glass or glazed vessel with excellent white vinegar for several days, until they become quite red by this, which will occur quickly. Then put the whole into a glass distilling apparatus and distill repeatedly until the filings completely vanish. For they will surely be sublimed with the said vinegar, and the whole of those filings will pass into red water. Let it rest further in stillness for several days. This water tinges prepared and molten luna wonderfully into a red color. And with each repetition of the work, imbibe the calxes with this water, dry, dissolve, congeal, and descend, until the tincture is sufficient. This water is mineral and corporeal. Another good recipe is made by this method. Take 1 pound of egg yolks, 1 pound of fresh human blood, and 2 pounds of clean human hair, mix these in a glass vessel. Then take 2 pounds of finely ground sal ammoniac, and mix everything together. Place the mixture in the glass with sifted ashes, and ignite gently below. Once all is resolved into water, then cast over it yellow sulfur equal to half of the total ingredients. Immediately remove the vessel from the fire, stirring everything together. Then pour it all into a cucurbit for distillation, and distill repeatedly over the feces, mixing with the water distilled from them, until everything remaining in the bottom is dry. This mixture, ground and combined with dissolved calxes and congealed, tinges particularly well. This is a tincture of vegetable or animal origin. An address to the reader, and a prayer to God. 18. Behold, my beloved friend, see how many good things I have now told you, from those contained in my rosary. Yet you cannot, from the foregoing, gather any roses from it. For my rosary is so strongly fortified with the deepest trenches, strongest walls, and many defenses, that no one is able to enter by any craft unless through 7 most secure and metallic gates, miraculously sealed with many keys. O most merciful and gracious God, if I have sinned in any of this, look upon me with the eyes of your kindness, for you alone know the hearts of men, and know that I have said this only from the fountain of your mercy. And I beseech you humbly and devoutly, Heavenly Father, that this not fall into the hearts of the wicked. But let the sons of wisdom and understanding know that my gardener, filled and infused with the grace of the Holy Spirit the Paraclete, showed me only the one key, by which all gates open miraculously and, as if by miracle, in the blink of an eye, as I wrote in the first chapter of my rosary. And the grace that my gardener showed me through his kindness, I will kindly and amicably write for all learned and understanding persons. The composition of aqua fortis, which is the key to the rosary. 19. The gardener took 3 herbs, which he found growing in the place of the rosary, from the same soil from which the rosary sprang forth. These were, celandine, sea purslane, and mercury plant. From these 3 he composed the aforementioned key. And I shall now explain the method of its preparation most perfectly for you. Take 2 pounds of green vitriol, 2 pounds of saltpeter, and 1 pound of feather alum, grinding each one separately. Then combine them. Next, have a glass alembic well sealed, externally all around with the clay of wisdom, and place the powder of the above in it. Set a glass alembic atop it, and seal the joints firmly with good clay so that no air may escape. Place it upon the distillation furnace, giving it gentle heat. The first water will be distilled first, collected in a long-necked glass flask. Let the flask be sealed with the said clay together with the alembic. Keep the gentle fire constant until the alembic inside becomes colored yellow. This is the sign of the second water. Then remove the first water with its flask and seal it with wax. Attach a new flask and seal it firmly, increasing the fire until the alembic becomes red inside. This is the sign of the third and strongest water. Remove the second flask and seal it. Place a new thick flask with a very long neck, sealing it firmly with the best clay, and continue increasing the fire until all the water has come over. Then remove it and seal its mouth with potter's clay, and reserve it for use. Praises of the forementioned aqua fortis. 20. This is the most precious, most powerful aqua fortis, known as corrosive water, and it is truly the key by which alone all 7 metallic gates of my rosary are opened in an instant. With this mineral key, you can unlock the 7 aforementioned gates and enter the rosary, and take white or red roses from whatever plate, metal, you wish, according to your will. And without doubt, whoever possesses this key will come to know all things that are contained within the rosary. Understand what I say, and prepare a guest chamber in the midst of your heart, that he may dwell therein forever. With this praiseworthy corrosive water, you can in an instant dissolve all bodies, raw or calcined, all spirits, and all minerals, even precious stones, and congeal them when you wish, as previously described, all in 1 hour. This water has such marvelous and praiseworthy effects. It dissolves the solid, renders liquid, purifies the impure, corrodes the superfluous, drives off the fugitive, consolidates the dispersed, increases unleavened tincture excellently, and the red one too. It penetrates all things, softens the hard, hardens the soft, reconciles opposites, and is the key of this whole art, in our present chapter. What more shall I say about it? Its praises are beyond measure. The first and second waters are also useful for many things in this art. Combine them, and you will possess nothing better in the world for washing the calxes of any metals. For every impurity, blackness, corruption, and burning sulphuriety is removed through it. In the dregs, moreover, is the greatest tincture. Study them well, for in them lies a great arcanum. Imbibe the dregs with all the water, both the first and second, and let it stand and be incorporated for 4 days, and then distill again by the prescribed method, and you will have more aqua fortis than you had before. And this is the final secret. For in this water all tinctures that are to be united are resolved, for its water can then be mixed with the waters of calcined and resolved bodies. In it are resolved Saturn and Jupiter, Mars and Venus, Mercury, Luna, and Sol. Through it also cinnabar is improved, and many other things, by which the work is shortened, colored, and augmented. And these suffice for the first part of the first chapter. Yet to complete it, I shall treat of its second and final part. For the elixir rightly follows, with its help, after the full augmentation of all bodies. The reclosure of the rosary by the same water. 21. Take a body that has been putrefied and then philosophically calcined by tempered heat and with the retention or preservation of its radical moisture. Dissolve it, but let it first be purified from all corrupting matter, and this shall be the beginning of the work. And this is of the unleavened matter. Let the calx be white, of a near imperfect body, the ferment likewise unleavened, well cleansed and calcined. Dissolve the unleavened matter as first stated. Let the waters be cleansed from the impure dregs. Then join them together in a glass flask with a narrow and tall neck, the mouth of which is to be sealed very firmly. The proportion must be observed, always 4 parts of the imperfect to 1 of the perfect. The flask with the water is to be placed in the furnace of coagulation until the whole coagulates into a stone, with good and fixed coagulation. Then you have the plants of your rosary of 1 year. Next, resolve a new material, as before, in the same proportion, and resolve again the coagulated stone, equal parts of each. Join the resolved waters and congeal them by the previously mentioned method, and you will have plants of 2 years. Third, resolve new matter as before in the weight of the first year's stone, and join it with the stone of 2 years resolved, and congeal as before, and you will have a rosary tenderly blooming, producing 10 roses. Fourth, resolve new matter as before, always in the equal proportion of the first year's stone, and join it with the waters of the 3rd year's stone, and congeal as before, and you will have a stone of 4 years producing 20 flowers of roses. Do the same a 5th time, and the 5-year rosary produces 30 roses. In the 6th, 100 roses. In the 7th, 200 roses. In the 8th, 300 roses. In the 9th, 1,000. In the 10th, 2,000. In the 11th, 3,000. In the 12th, 100,000. In the 13th, 200,000. In the 14th, 300,000. In the 15th, 1,000,000. And so, on the 15th day, you will have the perfect work of Luna. In the red work, or for the red, you will always work in calxes of reddened and resolved bodies, and with the resolution of soul. But here is my final secret: the more the tincture is increased through nourishing adjuncts, the deeper it tinges. Study and test this said art, and you shall quickly be fortunate. As for all the helps and auxiliaries of this art, they were clearly enough explained in the first part of this first chapter. Therefore, I now close the chapter of my rosary. Second chapter. That the cause of perfection is only Mercury. 1. It has been said above that the final aim of this most precious art is to improve imperfect metals and bring them to the highest grade. And the imperfection and corruption of these metals arises from a lack of good and pure fixed mercury, as I have said many times, and as all skilled philosophers say. It therefore follows that mercury alone is the perfective agent. Let us therefore choose it, and bring it to perfection, just as the philosophers once did who attained perfection. It alone, whatever is written, is the stone that the philosophers everywhere praise, which they hide under infinite parables, fictitious writings, and similitudes, and which they reveal with their great philosophies. And now the Spirit of God has inspired me with such grace, that with 2 words of His, I will explain all philosophical books concerning this art. Behold the word of the Holy Spirit. Mercury is the stone which the philosophers honor. My heart is divided, and like a book that is opened, let everyone read and attend, we seek only quicksilver. For in it is everything we desire, therefore, it contains its own tincture within itself. Oh, how precious and delightful a creature is that, for God has created nothing better, save the rational soul. It has within it a body, soul, and spirit. The body remains, the soul gives life, the spirit gives tincture. These are found in mercury alone, derived from water thickened by the power of sulfur of a pure burning nature. Therefore mercury is our stone, and it can be no other thing, which we also name dry water, because it is thickened uniformly by the power of unleavened or red sulfur. From it all bodies draw their origin, for from it they are made, and into it they return. For example, the sun is made from living mercury in its pure state, and it is again reduced into quicksilver by artifice. And thus must it be with all bodies. On the difference between types of mercuries. 2. But I say this to you, quicksilver made from the sun is of incomparably greater power, and gives fixation more quickly than that which was not yet a body. Still, it is always quicksilver derived from quicksilver, and it is warm, moist, and masculine. Quicksilver made from the moon gives quick fixation also, but it is cold, dry, and feminine. Quicksilver which was not a body, from which nonetheless all bodies are generated, does not differ from the other quicksilver, except only in digestion. And by it alone, and in no other way, all bodies are returned into quicksilver. A similitude indicating the universal way. 3. All things born, or all plants sprung from the earth, do they not always return to the earth? And when they have again rotted in that same earth over time, then all becomes earth again. But not all earth has the same virtue. We see that from the earth wheat is born, having a stalk and many grains, and if then, artificially, the stalks are returned to the earth after they are turned into dung, we see that all the dung returns into earth through putrefaction. But the grains that are preserved, if again they are planted in the same stalks turned to dung, they increase much more, as experienced farmers know well. So too, bodies submerged in mercury, through proper putrefaction, are returned to the quicksilver which they once were. And afterward, the metallic grains cast into that putrid earth are multiplied and grow without measure. Practice shrouded in darkness. 4. The mode of working is indeed very natural. Our quicksilver, coagulated or thickened by the power of unburnt or red sulfur, must first be cleansed from every filth and superfluity that can be removed by artifice, and that artifice is sublimation, which is done in this way. Place the stone in an open vessel over a moderate fire, agitating the mercury, so that all the superfluous moisture, which is accidental in it, and through which the work would be corrupted, may evaporate. Do not neglect this. Then will remain, after all the aqueous and undigested part, which was too volatile, has been removed, provided the fire has not overcome its radical fixed nature, a tempered substance, between fixed and unfixed, suitable for carrying out this work. Let the seed or ferment be most purely purified, one part of which is sufficient for 12 parts of the purified stone. Let an ingenious amalgamation of both be made. Then place the whole amalgam in a very strong glass vessel with a narrow neck, or in an earthen one capable of withstanding the density of glass, which is better, and let the mouth be firmly sealed. Let a great philosophical furnace be constructed, compact and solid, in the middle of which the strong, ample, earthen vessel is placed, able to endure fire. Into it all vessels containing the matter are to be put. Then let the furnace be covered, and from above let it be closed with a thick lid, and let there be 3 or 4 openings at the top to moderate the heat. Apply a gentle fire continuously. A gentle fire is called one which does not overcome the fixation of the stone. And the regulation of the fire should be such that lead remains continuously molten in it. This alone is manifest. For with such regulation you will, in 124 days, have complete putrefaction. Blackness, too, is a sign of proven putrefaction. Still under the same regimen, you will have the second sign, which is redness, lasting for 30 days, during which the process is perfectly completed. The third sign is greenness, which under the same heat regimen will be completed in 70 days. Between the third and fourth sign, all colors that can be imagined will appear. Then occurs the marriage, the union and conjunction of spirit and soul, then they reign together. Each previously reigned under its own sign. In the first sign, the body dominated. In the second, the spirit. In the third, the soul. The time of conjunction, with a slight increase of regimen, will be fully completed in 70 days, and the fourth sign will appear, which is the useful fermenting, and the sign of whiteness will be fully achieved in 140 days. If afterwards you continue the regimen with augmentation, you will see between the fourth and fifth signs discolored ashes, yet cherish them, for God will restore them to liquefaction, by infusing his fiery spirit. And when God wills, you will see the fifth sign, splendid with an inexpressible clarity and redness. Fear God, and honor him with your substance. On the perfect tincture and its properties. 5. Indeed, many things have been recounted in this rosary of mine, to give knowledge of the work and to introduce the ignorant to the mastery of truth. And because nothing in it is placed without purpose, nor do I wish it to be sent forth diminished. Look upon the complete red, and the red diminished in its redness, and all redness of the fixed and the unfixed, the dead and the living, of minerals, vegetables, and animals. Consider the living and life-giving, the dead and death-dealing, the white that whitens, and the red that reddens, and that which perfects the imperfect. And the more the whiteness of the perfect is increased, the more it whitens, and so with the red. But note and consider what kind of bodies they are, and what may be added to them in their liquefaction, so that they may be preserved and remain in the test. For not every white or red tinges bodies into moon and sun. The tincture of a body must be such that it mixes with the melted body, and enters it as though it were the very same body itself. Therefore, the tincture must be a bodily substance, extracted from bodies, or augmented by the benefit of mineral, vegetable, or animal agents, yet always corporeal. The truest tincture of whiteness is sulfur from true luna, most white and perfect, and the tincture of redness is sulfur from true, most red soul. Thus, one is as possible as the other. This the wise and discreet artist knows. Epilogue or recapitulation of all that has been said. 6. If by the aid of raw quicksilver, cold and moist, and by its benefit, the sulphurous principle, which is hot, dry, and clean, and which burns all things by reason of its burning virtue, is extracted, then pure quicksilver remains, cooked in bodies or coagulated by sulfur. Thus, by the aid of a certain quicksilver, the purest sulfur is extracted from the moon or the sun, and azimous sulfur, white, or red sulfur remains, which tinges blackness and is fixed. One part of this can tinge 2, 3, 4, or 6 parts of the matter, by the aid of the first part, into luna. But one part of the red tinges cooked quicksilver, from the first chapter, according to the purity of that quicksilver, in 2, 3, 4, or 6 parts, as with the white. However, in the second and final chapter, one part of sulfur from luna or sol tinges 1,000 parts of the body, i.e., of cooked quicksilver, and the virtue of this sulfur is so greatly augmented by the skill of the artisan with fire or aids, that after completion it tinges more than 1,000, or even 1,000,000 and beyond. Yet, all things are perfected by fire alone. For every white or red tincture must receive its color from fire, otherwise, it is of no value. The aids, moreover, are certain stones, with which the purity of the tincture and its fixation are increased, namely, eggs, hair, blood, quicksilver, sulfur, orpiment, sal ammoniac, vitriol, ink, alum, saltpeter, borax, tinker, tutty, marcasite, magnesia, and others. But do not think that any of these alone is sufficient to complete the work by itself. They are helps and, so to speak, assistants, by whose help bodies are cleansed and rectified, tinged and perfected, and they are like coadjutors and mediators of conjoining bodies. Among them, the most precious and excellent in our experience are eggs, hair, and the blood of a young male, from which the 4 elements are extracted. After these elements are rectified, they supply the deficiency of the elixir prepared from metals. For neither metals by themselves, nor stones can be perfected. But from these, the 4 elements extracted are placed in the stone in place of oil, or as the tinged soul. The prepared calx of the metallic bodies serves as the body of the white, azimous, or red stone. The spirit, whether white or red, is extracted from bodies, or is fixed and prepared from the spirits themselves. Furthermore, with the help of the aforementioned stones, the stone is washed and cleansed, fixed and tinged, and rectified, for the expedition of the work. And in the proportionate mixture of these prepared substances, a new form results, and thus the elixir is made, inasmuch as the matter has been more digested and tinged than natural soul. End of the Rosarius Minor, by an unknown author.